Desperately spreading posters to find his dog, Tommy, the protagonist of the game receives an anonymous call after 3 weeks of relentless and stressful search, with a mysterious person saying that his dog is held in a clinic called Umbral, a place the protagonist has never heard of before. Not sure why his dog is being kept there. Based on that lead, desperate for anything to find his missing dog, the protagonist sets out on this journey to find Tommy, taking his favorite toy with him, a simple tennis ball. As the protagonist goes to the place where the clinic is supposed to be in, he witnesses a derelict neighborhood, seemingly like an industrial place, with several posters of missing dogs hung on the walls, making it even more bizarre to why anyone with missing dogs would come to this specific place devoid of any crowds to spread posters. While exploring the area, he comes across a homeless man who explains that he has never heard of a clinic by the name Umbral, but has seen a large number of dogs and cats being transported here, which he found very suspicious. Encountering another man just standing in the street, he explains that many pets have been going missing in this area, which he assumes has something to do with the shady clinic that deals with animals. After walking some more, the protagonist finally finds the clinic, which happens to be open, yet no one being at the reception desk to attend to him. Calling out for someone to get to him, the protagonist starts looking around, finding a bizarre magazine on the reception desk detailing information about potential experiment with dogs and humans, creating some sort of a hybrid. This already seems pretty grim, as a theory forms in the protagonist's mind that something horrible must be going on here. Not being able to help but have a sense of impending doom that Tommy is in grave danger, the protagonist doesn't waste any longer, exploring the clinic further to find his best friend, Tommy, someone he has been relentlessly looking for the past 3 weeks. Going deeper into the clinic, which has long corridors, strange events start to occur, with a number of CCTV cameras recording and observing his every single move, and a rabbit appearing and then disappearing with lights flickering. It seems as if the electrical systems have some sort of issue. The protagonist gets horrible feeling that he is walking into a trap, but no matter what, he wants to find Tommy and he is not willing to leave without him. That's when he enters a locker room, finding another magazine continuing on the experiments that involved fusion of dogs with humans. It continues that the DNA sample of a male human and a male German Shepherd was taken and fused together to create a fertilized egg implanted in a surrogate, which turned into a fetus and eventually a puppy who has been born and trained up to a certain age. The story ends here, with the protagonist continuing down this path to find Tommy. Following a trail of blood in the long corridor maze, he comes across a continuation to the dog-human fusion experiment, which explains reaching adulthood, the hybrid displayed physical attributes beyond of either species, being a lot stronger than both an adult dog or an adult human being. Additionally, the hybrid displayed abilities of communicating to both humans and dogs and understanding them, and on top of that, his critical thinking and problem-solving skills being on par with a human. More sinister evidence starts displaying this clinic has been up to no good, finding a bed with someone dead beneath the sheets and large stains of blood, demonstrating that a dog or a human has been used for a surgical procedure who didn't survive the operation. That's when the protagonist reaches a study room using a computer which has files on different experiments involving dogs. The first dog on the list is McCree, whom the clinic used in a test labeled as Chacal Project. The results showed that he is not suitable for the project, and they quickly wanted to get rid of him, or in other words, kill him. But McCree outsmarted them and escaped. Going through pages of different dogs being used, the protagonist comes to a horrifying discovery that his dog, Tommy, has been subjected to these cruel experiments as well. Being only 5 years old, it is revealed that Tommy was not an ideal candidate for the specific experiment to create a god or a human-dog hybrid. Yet they kept him for other smaller experiments as his DNA showed compatibility. Frozen in his place, not knowing what to think, his gaze goes over the current status that Tommy is currently alive, which gives the protagonist a short few seconds of relief, being determined to save him. The final experiment, 2-year-old dog named Ruben, is described to be the product of a mutation, being able to walk on 2 legs and having a strange supernatural ability of interfering with electrical systems, hence why explaining the flickering lights. Yet Ruben is part dog who can't help but chase after balls. Ruben turns out to be the most compatible subject, which was used seemingly to create the demigod, or at least a successful first prototype. In the study, the protagonist finds metaphorical paintings as well of how the people of the clinic committing these acts of cruelty in the name of science are in fact monsters pretending to be human, with monsters holding human masks in the paintings. Managing to find a fuse and open a door, the protagonist encounters one of the human-dog hybrids created from the fusion of each party DNA. He watches in despair how it ravages a rabbit that was alive not long ago, and in fear, cowers in a bathroom stall and throws Tommy's ball, which sets this mutant off chasing it. That's when he understands that this mutated creature is none other than Ruben, who was explained to have a weakness of chasing balls, still having its love to play, despite what his appearance might display. Evading Ruben and reaching the experiment room, the protagonist comes across a scientist who is filled with remorse and pain, in the brink of death as he has been severely injured. The scientist explains he is sorry for all of this, and he was one of the only people who strongly disagreed with Project Chakal and voiced his opposition, but the higher-ups didn't listen to him and it all went on deaf ears. Just when he is about to instruct the protagonist on how to find a way out, he draws his last breath and dies with regret that he didn't do more to stop this madness. Going to room A, the protagonist observes large numbers of green pods, with some having mutated creatures within them being dog-human hybrids. They all look like they went through immense amount of suffering, clearly enduring a lot of pain. After evading Ruben once more, who seems to be very hostile, the protagonist comes across another magazine which continues on the possibilities of fusion of dogs with humans. The magazine explains how the outcome of such creature is a mutant capable of manipulating aspects of the nature, which is shown in Ruben able to interfere with electrical systems. The mutant would also display remarkable resistance to physical harm and accelerated healing abilities beyond any other creature. This badly concerns the protagonist about his dog, Tommy, whom he hasn't seen in any of the pods and is not sure where he can be found. That's when, exploring the area, the protagonist finds a journal written on May 18th about someone complaining about a staff member of how they have a bald head and they stick their nose where they shouldn't, being very curious. The bald guy seems to be the scientist the protagonist encountered in the beginning, explaining he tried to stop them from committing such heinous acts, experimenting on dogs and humans. Despite the scientist's constant dismay and pleas to stop, they carried on with the experiments when they finally, on June 5th, managed to find the right dog whom they experimented on with satisfactory results. The continuation of the magazine reveals that it is in fact written by the members of the clinic who have been documenting their results, being satisfied with the result achieved through Ruben, explaining further ethical implications and cautions must be included as rules not to make deadly mistakes in the future if they were to follow with more experiments. The protagonist, after a horrifying night looking for his dog, comes across dog cages piled on top of each other, depicting the amount of innocent dogs this inhuman clinic used for achieving their cruel goals, to turn them into monsters. In one of the cages, he is overcome by immense joy and happiness, making him cry, seeing Tommy to be kept in, being fully intact, which he breaks the lock of, taking Tommy in his arms, carrying him to get out of this cursed place. Tommy is equally, if not more, happy to see his best friend, relieved that he can get back to his home after 3 weeks of anguish and suffering, seeing so many other dogs being tortured. If the protagonist manages to escape the facility, taking Tommy with him, he is met by a stranger whom he met before, congratulating him and happy that he managed to find his dog, which leads to a video describing how 3.9 million dogs are abandoned each year, which unfortunately is the sad reality of how dogs are bred into existence for our joy. But many, after purchasing them as puppies and for whatever reason, abandon them or give them up to shelters when they are done playing with them. But it's important to understand that they have lives, and when we decide to purchase a dog, we have contributed to the breeding of these dogs as our money funds the system. So of course, we have to take responsibility for these dogs or even do something better and adopt, as they all deserve a loving home. I really appreciate the creator of the game who dedicated his time and efforts to make a game to raise awareness for pets. There's also a bad ending which doesn't necessarily have a big impact on the ending scene or dialogue, apart from the man at the end pointing out that the protagonist didn't rescue his dog and abandoned him. Essentially, this ending can be achieved if the protagonist decides to leave the facility without Tommy, which ends with the man explaining his dog will die a horrible death, being doomed to several days of suffering and starvation, if not brutal death, alone in darkness and cold, without any emotional support or anyone it recognizes to feel even better in his last days. I guess this is a subliminal message to how the abandoned dogs feel, all alone and betrayed, scared and helpless, up until the point that they pass away. Anyway folks, this brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next video. Have a fantastic day.